Hello everybody and welcome to AllforSci-Fi.com. I'm Eric Walker and welcome to another recap and review of Star Trek Picard. This is for episode 3, which aired today. The end is the beginning, and boy is it ever so. What an episode, guys. I'm really enjoying this new Picard series. I know there's a lot of flack on the internet and maybe a bunch of Next Generation fans thought that they were going to get that show. That is not what Picard is. I didn't expect it to be that way, but I'm really digging the new energy and the new vibe of the show. But before we get started with the rating and the recap and review, let's go ahead and make a couple quick announcements. But before we do that, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell, because you're going to want to be notified every time we do a live stream. And the reason for that is because every Saturday we have the AllforSci-Fi live trivia game contest. All you have to do is watch the live stream, and then at the end of it, we'll ask just one question. If you get the question right, you could win a free gift. Hey, how about that? Free gifts. And this year at AllforSci-Fi, just to give back to all our YouTubers out there, our goal is to give away 52 gifts this year, and there certainly is enough merchandise at Galaxy's Edge to give 52 gifts. Also, wanted to give a quick shout out to Mr. Dan O at the Dan O channel, who has the new game, the Bounty Hunt game at Galaxy's Edge. And this Saturday, after the live stream, I'm wanted. I have a bounty on my head, and you gotta find me. And we're gonna do this on YouTube and also on our Instagram channel. So if you have Instagram, make sure you also follow us on Instagram so you know when we're doing the bounty hunt. Thank you, Mr. Dano. He is supplying all the coins and credits and the Beskar steel, so you have a shot at, if you find me in this bounty hunt game, you have a shot at winning. The first person that finds me wins. So thank you, Mr. Dano, for doing it at the Dan O channel. And follow me or him as well on Instagram so you know when we're going to do that. Okay, let's get started with Picard Episode 3, The End is the Beginning. Before we do that, let's give a rating before we get into the recap, and so so you don't worry about spoilers and you also get to know what the rating is. Let's do that first. At AllforSci-Fi, we have a 0 to 5 star rating, 5 stars being best. If you get 3 or below, we don't recommend you go, or we also don't recommend that you stream it. In this case, it's the Picard series is on CBS All Access, so we don't recommend that you stream it. Okay, let me go ahead and give the rating. This episode gets 4.5 stars. Yep, I'm increasing it. Last week was 4.25 stars. I think that this week's episode was slightly better. We did get a little bit more action in it. It was a lot of dialogue, and they're still kind of setting up these characters. We're starting to get to know Rafi more, who is an old colleague of Jean-Luc Picard's from, I guess, the Enterprise E. That's the last ship he was commanding, which I thought was kind of cool that in the episode. Before we do that, I'm going to put spoilers up here. Let's go ahead and talk about the show. But it was kind of interesting to find that there actually is an Enterprise E now. I wonder what that ship looked like. I hope to see it in future episodes. But yeah, and also this episode, very much like the prior episode, at the very beginning we have a prologue. So we go back 14 years again, and this time, instead of being on Mars and seeing what happened there, we see what happens when Jean-Luc Picard resigns at Starfleet. It starts off with him coming down and he meets with Rafi. I can't tell whether Rafi is his number 1 or she's just a lieutenant commander. You Trekkies would know that, but it looked like she had three stars there, which I think means that she's probably his number 1. But let us know in the comments below. So he's meeting with Rafi in front of Starfleet headquarters, and he looks disappointed, and he just had the big meeting about what they're going to do with the Romulans. Are they going to save them, and are they just going to let them go? And they're talking back and forth, and she's saying, did you remind him that we could use these backup ships? Did you remind him that we could use, backup personnel, even synthetics? And then he says, nope, they've now just banned synthetics, so we can't use those. And they sit down, and Jean-Luc Picard tells Raffi that he gave them an ultimatum. Either do this and save the Romulan Empire, or I'm going to resign. And they accepted his resignation. So, and she's talking back and forth still, what else could we have done? And he stops her and says, look, I gave them what I thought was my last ditch effort, the final straw. I thought that they wouldn't let me resign. So I was surprised that they let me resign. So, and as they're talking, she gets a call from her CO, and she says, great, now you resign, and now I'm going to get fired. So she gets up in a huff and walks away, and then we flash forward back to now, and they're at the Borg ship, and we see Sochi, and Sochi's with this newer gentleman. I can't tell if he's in synthetic or not, but he's in charge of the whole operation. And he was watching when Sochi said those kind words to the Nameless, when she said, I'm now setting you free. He was watching that, and he was taken back by the great heart that Sochi has. And so he tells her, I want you to speak. I'm going to give you a shot at speaking to Rhonda, who is a Romulan, who is assimilated, but she has all this vast knowledge of the Romulan Empire. And so they go over to speak with her, and she starts, she's all excited about this because she gets to speak. We find that also Romulans, apparently when they're assimilated and you try to turn them back, they kind of go wacko, they go crazy. They kind of go nuts. Not like other species where, Jean-Luc Picard was assimilated and when he came back, he was okay. Romulans go crazy after that. Apparently something with their nerves or synaptis or whatever it is, whatever it's called. So then we flash forward to present day, and it makes me wonder if what time frame that Borg ship is in. But we see a sign that says present day Vasquez Rocks. So they actually, which is really cool, they named it Vasquez Rocks, which is a real place. It's been in a lot of Star Trek episodes and a lot of movies, and apparently they're going to go ahead and let Raffi's place, and we see Raffi and Jean-Luc Picard talking, and it's a great moment, and she's all upset. She's getting drunk, and she's saying, "Why did you leave me? You left me alone, and you never checked in on me to see if I was okay after all that stuff happened. Pity, 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 pity." But the acting's great, and she gets mad again and walks off in a huff away from Picard. But this episode is just it has a lot to it. And after that, we later go to the Daystrom Institute, and we see Alison Pill's character, Dr. Girardi. She's listening to some classical music, and Commander O wants to speak to her about why she's been meeting with Jean-Luc Picard. Then after that, we go back to the Borg cube. We see more. So she's starting to speak to Rhonda, and Rhonda has these like tarot cards, and she's turning them over, and so she's trying to figure her out. So she turns over one that had. Then one of the cards is for door, but false door. She talks about how the Romulans, and this is some more information about the Romulans we didn't know. The Romulans don't have a front entrance. They have a false door that everybody goes through. And you only know that if you're Romulan. So she goes behind Rhonda and basically speaks to her in Romulan and asks if she could be accepted and come through the door. And Rhonda, I guess, likes the respect and says, you could go ahead and have a seat. So they start talking a little bit, and Rhonda thinks she knows her. This Romulan says, I know you, I've seen you before. And she calls her the destroyer of worlds. what the heck is going on here? So Soshi is known as the Destroyer, and she says to her, are you the one that died? Like, she knew that her sister has died, and she's telling her sister, are you the one that died? So she's letting Soshi know that something happened to Daj. So she freaks out and goes back to her room, and she calls her mom right away and asks her, is something wrong with Daj? Is something wrong with Daj? Is she alive? Did something happen to her? And her mom is talking to her and telling her sister's okay. She just talked to her this morning. And as she's talking, Soshi falls asleep, which was kind of weird. It's like, is there something in her mom's voice that makes her fall asleep? Anyway, that was awfully strange. And then we come back to Chateau Picard. Oh, before that, Picard actually gets from Raffi, gets a name of someone that has a ship. His name is Rios, and she says, reach out to Rios. He's one of the best pilots in the galaxy, and reach out to him. He would be good. So after that, we see Picard show up. We see him materialize on Rios' ship above Earth. And as he's walking, you hear this beautiful music. Oh, he's back on a starship. We see Jean-Luc Picard on a starship. And this gentleman walks over to him and says, he thinks that the person's Rios, and it's not. So he says, come along with me. And he takes him to see Rios, who has a big knife stuck in his shoulder blade. And we find out that he's an EMH. He's a hologram. He's a medical doctor. So, and Rios is kind of an interesting character. You get that right from the very beginning, meeting this guy. He kind of reminds you, he's definitely kind of a swashbuckler type to me. He kind of had a lot of sass. He kind of reminded me a lot, even though this is not Star Wars. I'm sorry I'm giving you a Star Wars reference. He reminded me a lot of Han Solo, actually, but a smarter Han Solo. If there would ever be a Han Solo in the Star Trek universe, it would be Rios. I know that sounds weird, and I'm not trying to cross-pollinate and do a crossover event here, but that was my opinion, of course. But with Starfleet and Star Trek, there's a little bit more of a command structure, but Rios is an interesting character, and he has the EMH take the thing out of his the knife out of his shoulder blade, and they start having a conversation. He asks Picard, what does he need him for? What kind of mission? Is it illegal? And Picard says, well, if I went and asked lawyers, or I went to Starfleet every time I did a mission, I would, never do any missions. So he says, I can't tell you if what we're doing is illegal. He asks him, do you know where we're going? No, I don't know. Picard doesn't know where they're going at the moment. Okay, so they have this little scene going back and forth. Picard then goes back to Chateau Picard, and he's having a scene. No, before that, we flash to back to Vasquez Rocks, and we see that Raffi is doing some research, and Picard calls her on the telephone, which isn't a telephone; it's a little hollow thing, and she says, He says, "Are you doing research?" to Raffi. Of course, Raffi, who said she's not going to help whatsoever, is doing research. So he goes, I'm going to send you everything on Bruce Maddox. And he sends her all the information on Dr. Bruce Maddox so she could do some research before the mission. And then we're back to Chateau Picard, and Picard is standing outside on the terrace, and he's just looking at and gazing at the stars. And you see that he smells this great... The grapes are ripening. It's the season to pick the grapes, and he's talking about the sweet smell of grapes, but he also talks in something we knew all along. Even though that's his family's home, that doesn't feel like home. Picard's home is in the stars. So, and Loris knows that too, and says, yeah, this isn't your home. So as they're, then Joban, his other Romulan caretaker, walks out and says, I got bread for you and other stuff for you to take on your journey. And then suddenly he drops down and they're being attacked. And here's where the action is. And they have a nice little quick scene, again with Romulan Romulan assassins try to take them out. Picard out, and Laris and Zhoban. And they quickly, it's not quick, but it's a little scene, and they end up taking all of them out. And then suddenly another one appears, and then out of nowhere, Dr. Girardi's there and grabs one of the guns and shoots him. So she shows up, and hot off the heels of dealing with Commander O, questioning her about Jean-Luc Picard, and she's all frightened because she thinks she even says, I think I stunned him, and then Laris says, the Romulan disruptors don't have a stun setting, so you killed them. So she's all freaking out. She killed somebody. Then you find out that they didn't kill all of them. One of them is still alive. So they start interrogating this Romulan to try to get information from him, which doesn't work. He ends up spitting on him, acid out, and he ends up getting acid on him, and he ends up, burning up, basically. So they lost that opportunity. And then he gets a call from Rio saying, things are getting hot and heavy. We got to go now. If we don't leave Earth now, we're not going to get out of here. And Picard says, how did you get that information? And, Rios doesn't tell him how he got the information, just, my sources. So, and at that moment, Dr. Girardi starts speaking, and she tells them she wants to go with them. That the reason why she showed up is she wants to be a part of this. She is the foremost doctor on synthetics. She worked with Dr. Bruce Maddox, and this is her dream. She's never seen a synthetic this human-like, and she wants to go and meet the twin, Soshi, who they're trying to get the ship and go find before it's too late. And by the way, this Romulan that they were talking to does, before he kills himself, he does talk about Soshi and about how she's the destroyer. So that's brought up again. So apparently this Soshi, you better be careful. Don't set her off. Don't get her going, because she's not just like her sister. Earlier they were saying get her before she activates. Don't activate Soshi because she's the destroyer. And it's just, and so Dr. Girardi convinces them that she should go, and she says she'll also help them and earn her keep. So they beam up to the ship, and guess who's there? Rafi's there. So after all this, I'm not going to help you, but go find this. I have a captain for you. Rafi is there. And she tells Picard, I'm not here for you. I'm here for me. And she's located Dr. Bruce Maddox. So with all that information she got from Picard, she knows where Bruce Maddox is. He's in the Free Cloud. What is the Free Cloud? I want to know too. So that's where they're heading, and right at the end, they all sit down, and we get the moment we've been waiting for. Picard stands, except for he's not sitting in the captain's chair, he stands next to Rios, and Picard says the most famous line, engage. Engage. And then the ship takes off, and the episode ends. You know what? I have to say it. I'm going to say it again. This is great television. CBS All Access, Alex Kurtzman, who's doing this, Patrick Stewart, who's also helping make this. You guys are doing a great job. Although it is very different than The Next Generation, it is still it's a great show. I'm enjoying myself so far each week. At the end of this episode, we get a sneak peek about what's coming, and it looks like what's coming has a lot more action in it, which I like. So, hey, 4.5 stars. That's the official rating. Thank you guys for joining me again for another recap and review of Star Trek Picard. This was week 3. The end is the beginning. And did want to remind everybody, if this is your first time watching our videos, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when we go live for our AllforSci-Fi live trivia game. And this week, we're doing a special bounty hunt courtesy of Dano at the Dano channel. Thank you very much, Dano. Anyway, see you guys next week, and until then, live long and prosper.